Good afternoon, one and all. This is Lyrata for the Institute for Global Transformation reporting to you for our October segment of spiritual consideration, self-development, and strengthening. This month, we're talking about the will of God in continuation with everything that we have been talking about before. We're moving forward. And we consider this at this time, the will of God, the laws, three major laws that we will consider today in reference to the will of God. We're going to be looking at the will of God in terms of its relationship to substance. And the laws that we will be considering are the law of economy, the law of relativity, and the law of periodicity. In reference to form or our substance. And this applies to any form, okay? Be it a thing, a person, an individual, an idea, okay? Form in general. We know the form to be transitory, right? One thing we know is form is in constant change. We come into this world through the birthing process. We are young. We mature. We get to a ripened point in our development. And then we come down off that pinnacle into lesser forms or forms that become a little weaker as we decline. Form changes. Form is transitory rather, in nature. Form is intelligent in nature. Form has two particular aspects to it. It is either inert, but when impressed by the will of God or divinity or spirit, it gets excited. It gets excited and it begins to create. And it only creates in alignment with the intention of that will that has impressed its energy upon it. It's really quite magical. Okay? So when you have spirit, consciousness, and matter, three aspects to the divine will of God. Spirit, intent, purpose, will. Matter, mother, creativity, substance, intelligence, form. Consciousness, that magnified field that is created as a result of spirit impressing matter, activating matter. sending its intention to matter. And matter, initially inert, one would think. And don't get that word wrong. Inert does not mean unconscious. I don't know if that's the right word to use. Inert doesn't mean that it's nothing. It appears to be nothing. But in truth, it is it holds within it the intelligence of the divine. So, spirit is divinity vibrating at its highest frequency. Matter is that same energy vibrating at its lowest frequency. And consciousness is that magnified field created as a result of spirit activating matter, impressing upon matter, waking up matter, and it creates this magnified field, which is consciousness itself. And consciousness is soul. Consciousness is love. Consciousness is wisdom. Consciousness is divinity. Focused on its purpose. So the will of God is expressed via certain laws that work out as the nature of a life in form. Thus, every form receives its inherent nature from the focused will of God. Every form receives its inherent nature by the focused will of God. The will of God works out in substance or form in three, within our planet, in three major laws that we are going to, the ones that I mentioned initially that we're going to discuss. These laws are: one, the law of economy. This law states that all forms shall serve the one life. Everything that is on this planet is in service to the one life. Everything that is on this planet is in service to the one life. Think about that. The activity of the one life and the focus of the one life is the growth and development of all consciousness therein, or within it, into an expression of divine love, wisdom. All of humanity is on the path, one way or another. They just don't know it yet. Many do. We do. And as a result, we hold a responsibility to assist the one life in directing and awakening others that are in our sphere of control, or within our environment, our sphere of affairs. This means that every form upon the planet, whether created by God or by humanity, is in service to the one life or divine purpose. So, and as a result of that, the growth and development of that form will always be toward a conscious expression of deity. It seems unfathomable, but yet it isn't. As I told you before, this planet is a second-ray planet. This planet is about love, wisdom. We live in a second-ray cosmos. Cosmos is about love, wisdom. Okay? Second-ray cosmos, second-ray solar system, and the planet itself, although it's a third-ray planet, sorry, did I say second-ray planet? It's a third-ray planet. That basically says it's a planet of creativity. It's a planet that's devoted to that, creating forms that are in alignment with that second ray, solar system, and cosmos of love, wisdom. Can you, isn't that a powerful thing? So all the forms are in some way, in some form, guided by, regardless of whether they seem that to be in alignment with the divine or not. Because of the fact that we are living and breathing and having our being in a second-ray solar system, in a second-ray cosmos, that means that this planet has to work within that field. All of its creations have to be within that hue. That current. It has to issue forth from love and wisdom, and to express according to love and wisdom, which gets kind of, for us, from our vantage point, makes us wonder. Because then that means that wars, of which we're experiencing 2 major wars, at least many more really, on this planet, but 2 major eruptions of war on this planet that could take our world into an even deeper abyss of war. But we have to realize that within that action and activity, within that vehemence and violence, within that greed, fear, pain, within all of that, something else is birthed that holds within it divinity, and an awareness and an appreciation of divinity that may not have been clearly fathomable prior to conflict. The purpose is to be able to turn the spiral and arrive at new levels. Okay? The purpose of the ugly is to arrive, to be able to turn the spiral and arrive at new levels. So that says a whole lot about racial conflict. all kinds of conflict, political, financial, you name it. All of these things that we fight over, there's a higher frequency. It's not about the field of opposites. Okay? It's about always, it's a triangular motion. You have the opposition, but then there's a higher point, higher frequency. And if we can move from that opposition, my way or the highway, like, dislike, good, bad, whatever, we can move from there into that higher frequency. Then we lift above the opposition into solution. And that's what's being called upon or called forth here. Okay? Regardless of the stubbornness and all of that, something is going to happen that will create something new, a new realization, a new something, something new has to be birthed. It's just a law. When we oppose this manifestation of the law of economy, when we oppose the manifestation of the divine plan or of law and order, the form still is responsible and will serve the one life. Okay? If only through example. We are given freedom of choice to a certain extent. We're given freedom of choice in our operations to build whatever forms it is we so wish. But that freedom of choice is as far as it goes. The will of God always, the will of the divine will always supersede the little wills of humanity. Thus, in all things, then, bottom line, thus in all things, regardless of how it outpictures, in all things, there is good. Even in wars. It is said that tremendous strides were made in the first two wars. Yes, there was loss of life. Yes. There was trauma. Yes. PTSD. Yes. Loss of material goods. Loss of a sense of homeland. Many things were lost. But in that process, humanity took a major turn of the spiral on spiritual levels. And vowed to never allow something like that to happen again. The forces of light on the inner levels were able to come through and work on behalf of humanity. Humanity grew in ways and and with speed, such a speed that was unexpected by the guardians of our race. And I say race singularly because it is the human race. I'm not talking about all the breakdowns. The human race, we are one. So in that sense, great strides were made during the first two wars. We have to realize that there are two perspectives, and it would behoove us as a group of spiritual beings to be able to shift our awareness of perspective to that of the higher regions or the higher realms. There's one perspective from the human level, because we so identify with our form that looks upon the loss of life as the worst thing that could possibly happen. But we must realize that from the aspect of the soul and the monad, life is ongoing. It never ends. We who are so identified with the form get stuck when the form is damaged or annihilated. When the form is simply an outer casing for the soul. The form releases, the soul continues. So from the perspective of the soul, life is one incarnation. It's not stuck in the many. The many are simply a way of acquiring greater experience. We must rise as a group to that level of awareness. That can see the entire plain that rises above the forest and doesn't get stuck simply below, admiring the trees and the land and the so forth and so on that we identify with. And we're going to talk about that level of identity shortly. So we've been given freedom of choice up to a point. We can manifest whatever it is we want. Ideally, the purpose is to be able to understand that we are here as spiritual beings having a human experience, and that as a result of that, that which we create is in alignment with that which we are, the one life. It's not about creating whatever the hell we want to create. It's about being able to ask the hard questions. Is this for me? Is this my personal desire? Or is this in alignment with my soul's call? Then we know that we're creating an alignment with the divine. And we have full, so to speak, as long as we create according to the process, the creative process, we have full what's the word? Full ability and full dispensation, so to speak, to create what it is we seek to create, or that is sought to be created. Okay? Yeah, so the growth of our awareness, our consciousness, is ongoing, never will end. It's a part of our evolutionary process. We are here to learn who we are, our true purpose, and to live and create in accordance with that purpose. In every appearance of opposition, regardless of how it outpictures, there is always, always, always the opportunity for growth. That's a big statement. So that really basically tells us to welcome opportunity, the opportunity of challenge. Welcome the opportunity of challenge, because that allows us to connect with that alignment, or a higher alignment, to realize what is happening and why. And this we may not ascertain until later, but to automatically move from that personal level, that horizontal level, into the vertical level, to be able to say, why is this happening? What am I to learn from this experience? And begin to navigate the experience accordingly. In faith, in trust, in knowing, in strength. Because you're not moving from the aspect of simply the form and the substance, stuck in fear and weakness and anger and reactivity. But you are taking your inner strength, you are taking that inner strength that is the soul of your being, and connecting inwardly and saying, okay, this is happening in my life. What am I to do with it? How am I to work in this moment of time that will benefit all, not just you, that will benefit all in some way? And we call in the help that we need. We realize that we're not alone. This goes back to past lessons. And we also realize that as we project the panacea, or as we begin to tweak what's going on through our vertical alignment, that we are laying out patterns for others to also learn from us. And remember that there are people who've been through what we've been through. Humanity at large, all those ancestors that have gone before us, known or unknown, have been through what it is we are going through. And we can call upon that wisdom to inform our judgment, our decisions, to strengthen our emotional body and our mental body, and our physical body as well. Second, we look at the law of relativity, which states that all forms are interrelated and interdependent with the one life. We said that the form is of intelligent substance. It's active, living, intelligent substance. It's activated by the impress of spirit or divine will upon it. And once impressed by that powerful causative, positive meaning in terms of a battery, active, not because it's solely good. It is good, but we're not coming from there. We're not looking at positive, negative as being good or bad. We're looking at positive being the positive charge, the causative activity, the causative force, and then negative, that being matter, creativity, form, substance, as being the negative, Mother Earth, negative, okay? Meaning, as we said, receptive. That's the key word, meaning receptive. And our position is to always make sure that we are negative to spirit and positive to matter. That's when we know we're in alignment. We check in to our vertical alignment and know that we are negative to spirit, meaning we are receptive to spirit, and we are causative to matter. Then we're doing our job, okay? So let's get back. Law of relativity, which states that all forms are interrelated and interdependent with the one life. We said form is composed of active, alive, living, intelligent substance. Substance, we also said, is spirit or God, the one life, vibrating at a lower frequency. Okay? It is also the matter aspect. It's the third person of the Holy Trinity, the Holy Spirit. The soul or consciousness aspect comes into being as a result of the interaction of God's will and God's intelligence. We just said that. When spirit is impressed upon matter, substance acts. It cannot do anything else but outpicture the intention of spirit. The soul or consciousness aspect comes into being as a result of the interaction of God's will and God's intelligence, or spirit and matter. Humanity's bodies are constructed out of this divine substance. In 3 vibratory ranges. As the consciousness attracts these intelligent lives, or particles of divine substance, onto itself, and that's what consciousness does. Consciousness, we've been talking about spirit and matter now. Now we're going to be talking about consciousness. Consciousness, as I said, is that magnetic field that begins to build as a result of the interaction between spirit and matter. And what happens is the characteristic of consciousness in and of itself is that it magnetizes what it needs. It magnetizes pulls in what it needs, and it also radiates. Okay? As the consciousness attracts these intelligent lives, or particles of divine substance, onto itself, and reflects its own being upon them as the consciousness, so it magnetizes, and then it begins to impress upon it its own being. The apparatus of that substance takes on the appearance of a form according to the reflected state of being to which they've been attracted. We've talked about this already. So it's really kind of breaking it down in another way for us to understand, okay? And it might seem unfathomable to be able to understand this, but it's not. So let's try to break it down a little bit more. Endeavor to imagine spirit and matter as two polarities of one energy. We spoke about that. Spirit is the positive pole and expresses as divine will. Matter is the negative pole and expresses as pure intelligence, or what we call substance. Intelligence is the patterning upon which substance builds itself, okay? Intelligence is the patterning upon which substance builds itself. Intelligence is part of the third aspect. Intelligence is a part of matter. Matter is intelligent. When a spider begins to spin that intricate web, that's an example of intelligence. When those bees make that honeycomb, that's that's an aspect of divine creativity. So between this polarity of spirit and matter, a consciousness is born. That state of being identified as soul, which is without form. It reigns above us, above our physicality, okay? And soul creates via radiation. When soul creates, it's creating according to three aspects: the mental, the emotional, and the physical. So form then comes into being, okay? The soul or consciousness is overshadowing as a result, and yet it is at the very center of that being. It's at the center of the being, and yet it is overshadowing. The soul is fourth dimensional. While it exists within the center of the form, it also exists outside of the form in a frequency range above and beyond the form. In order for us to understand and connect with that aspect of soul that we are, more so than the form, and that aspect of our being that will connect us vertically with the one life. In order for us to know that point, we must turn our awareness inward gradually. And again, that is what meditation, the meditative process, is for. We must turn our awareness into that inner center, which is above the pineal gland, in that brain cavity just above the pineal, to a realization of the meaning of the self-conscious I, before it can merge in awareness with the higher consciousness of that which we are in reality. So that's our homework. That's part of our homework. And ideally, if you have been listening to any of these lessons, and if you've been engaged with the Institute for Global Transformation, then you are on your way in that process. You are doing the work, ideally. Our problem is, as I said before, is because we get so stuck. Humanity has lost sight in the main of its own spiritual nature and strength and identity. We identify with matter instead of identifying with the consciousness. We do not know who we are. It's our job. And again, it's part of the process to begin to understand who we really are and identify inwardly and begin to put muscle and mass on that level of identity that will cause our identity with form to atrophy. The majority of human consciousness has become identified with and imprisoned within the form nature that it inhabits. We identify with the matter aspect in an illusory world of our own reflection. Think about that. How crazy is that? And yet, how necessary it is in order for us to move from the path of involution to the path of evolution. Magnetic radiation is a part of the nature of consciousness. Therefore, the self-conscious I, indwelling a form, continues to radiate its state of being into and through the form to create another magnetic field. This second field is in the outer world of affairs, and within it falls the individual's immediate environment, their personal spheres of influence. The forms in the physical plane of affairs are, again, intelligent lives attracted into a pattern of relationship according to the radiation exerted upon them by consciousness. The individual in the brain is a soul, a state of consciousness that is a state of being aware. Individuals radiate that awareness through their mental, emotional, and physical bodies into the world of affairs as a magnetic field. While we may not perceive this radiation with the physical senses, we can see its effects in the very substance of our environment. This radiation is magnetically attractive. It attracts the substance and forms of the environment into specific patterns of relationship that provide the experiences necessary to the growth and development of the consciousness involved. Consider your own radiation. So, what this is saying, an interpretation, or rather a paraphrasing of what has been just said, is that that which is outpictured in our lives, that which we see in our sphere of influence, that which we see radiating about us, that which we see in terms of experience, in terms of behavior, in terms of things that we attract outwardly around us, is an experience of the radiation of that soul out. And through that radiation, we can get to see what's going on inside of us. Through that outpicturing of experiences, we get to see what's radiating inside, what's going on inside. Okay? So, it's a very good time for you to ask the question, to maybe take a moment to pause this video and write down what you're seeing in your life's experiences. If your awareness is of limitation, unhappiness, joylessness, you will manifest via attraction that same condition in your life and affairs. What is life but God's gift to living? What is love but God's gift to loving? And what is joy but God's gift to joyousness, to joy itself, to the joyous? It's a good time to define the state of awareness that you're experiencing by writing it down, writing it out in a notebook, taking a moment. What's going on? And compare it with the forms of experience that they are continually meeting in everyday life. Is this a pattern that keeps happening over and over again? Whether it be in your relationships, whether it be in the kinds of jobs that you create or don't, whether it be in the prosperity you have or lack, whether it be whatever it is, okay? Ask that question. What's going on outwardly, and how is it reflecting my soul? This will bring one into a sharp realization of one's own needs in consciousness. The need to expand your awareness to include and embody those spiritual truths which are of real value. Thus, our sense of value begins to go through radical changes and rapid changes. The law of relativity basically states that every form from individuals' bodies, thoughts, feelings, experiences, has a specific effect upon all other forms and consciousness therein. And even at the lowest of all levels, there's still, it is still the one, an aspect of the one life. It is the one life, even at the lowest level of its expression. So in the greatest of oppositions, in the greatest of conflicts, look at that. Listen to this statement. In the greatest of conflicts, it is the one life that is seeking to come through. What does that say? Especially given the world experiences that we're having now. Right relationship or divine order is achieved when the consciousness realizes this fact and relates those forms with which they are primarily concerned with the purpose of the one life. This is done when we place our life's experience into the hands of the divine plan. When we take our hands, I love that. When we take our hands off the wheel, let's put it that way, okay? When we realize that we are not really in control. And we surrender, which is just another word for opening. We open ourselves up to that higher aspect of which we are and have always been. But our identity has shifted to realize that we are no longer in control. We have never been in control, and our purpose and focus is otherwise much more than what we think it is, what we have thought it to be. And it's in this way, by constantly, from opportunity to opportunity, challenge to challenge, relationship to relationship, experience to experience, we keep handing it over to the divine plan, to the one life, because we know we're not in control. And by doing that and creating a ever stronger vertical alignment, which is also an aspect of the Antakarana, as we build that, that means that we are also beginning to receive more of that spiritual essence and energy into our being, so that there is a passage in both ways, in both directions, and a greater percentage of our being becomes infused by divinity. By soul. And as a result, we become a conscious disciple of the Christ. And Christ does not mean Yeshua, as I've told you before. Christ means one who has accepted soul awareness, soul consciousness, and one who is infused by the soul. One is soul infused. That's a level of Christedness. Okay? And when we say the Christ, again, we're not talking about the man who walked earth, Yeshua. The Christ is an office. The Christ is the head of what is known as the spiritual hierarchy, those elder beings, those guardians, those communion of saints. What do they call it? The intelligent college? What was it called? Spiritual college? All of these names that have been given to the group that work a step down from the divine will of the one life. Made up of souls who have mastered their matter, as we are seeking to do in these many incarnations that we live, who have learned and mastered their matter and have graduated beyond the human realm, no longer have to return to humanity, but decide to assist humanity from another plane. And the Christ is head of all of that. That's what Christedness means. That's what the Christ means. The office of the Christ is what it's called and known as. But being Christed from our level, it means that that being, it's that human being who has taken on and has a total identification with the one life and is working to manifest the divine plan within humanity consciously, and is aware that their association and life experience in this supercharged way, that they are holding a particular frequency. And as a result, because the consciousness of the soul is magnetic and receptive, that energy is flowing outward from them, touching many, all within their sphere of influence, so that they too can touch others. Okay. A form that is constructed for other than a divine purpose is a misuse of energy and substance. And I leave you with that to ponder. Then there's the third law, the law of periodicity, which states, in effect, two things: that every form has its own inherent cycle of growth, maturity, and decline, these cycles being impressed upon it at the moment of its conception by the focused intent of the consciousness involved. Meaning that anything and everything that is an idea that is coming into manifestation, that is built any idea that is built and as a result is birthed into manifestation has a particular cycle of time. That cycle of time is built into the conception of the idea. Meaning, it's a difference rather between something like the Cabbage Patch Dolls, which came out and for years were the thing that every parent had to run get every Christmas, birthday, or whatever. Okay, they had a particular cycle of time in which it lived. Or Pet Rocks came out, had a particular cycle of time in which it of its life. So that cycle of time is built at conception. Okay? So how long we are all going to be on this planet at any given within any given incarnation is already predetermined. We do not leave ahead of our time. Okay? We do not leave. When they, be it a car accident, be it a desire to leave the planet, be it a war, suddenly that crops up, we do not leave a moment before our time. Okay? It's part of the intent of the consciousness involved itself, that cycle. And B, that the cyclic activity of every form is peculiar to that form itself, yet subject to and contained within more powerful cycles of that organized life, of which it is a functioning part. That part B is a little bit more difficult for us to understand. I'll read it again just so that you can hear it in its entirety. That the cyclic activity of every form is peculiar to the form itself, yet subject to and contained within the more powerful cycles of that organized life of which it is a functioning part. So what I'm seeing when I read that, I'm seeing I'm seeing an oak tree that's been cut. And when you look at the plane of that cut surface, you see the rings. And each ring is indicative of a particular cycle in time of that oak tree's life. And as a result, if we were conversant in the language of the tree, what those rings really mean, we would understand that the particular ripple or a particular maybe pause and then a pickup of that ring seems like it disappears, but then it comes back, is going to indicate something about that cycle in that oak tree's life. And it also signifies to me, well, yeah, that important piece of wisdom that in every acorn is the blueprint of the entire mighty oak that it will turn out to be. It's all within that tiny acorn. Okay, so let's explore these for a moment, and then we'll continue them in our next session. And we'll go into meditation. Our first consideration of this law in order to approach its meaning lies in the fact that every form carries as a part of its inherent nature its own cycles of activity. We are all given a span of life in which to grow, mature, decline, leave our impact, and move on. Each soul holds within it for a particular incarnation. It doesn't make a difference. Each soul, as we said, the soul is constant from incarnation to incarnation to incarnation. It does not change, okay? So the soul holds within it its own consciousness, within its own consciousness, a definite purpose and goal. It holds within it a plan of growth. It holds within it a certain service that it will accomplish. via its incarnation. The plan itself is the focused intent, the divine will of the soul, its motivating cause or impulse for its new cycle of expression or incarnation. The soul also brings with it the habits and the clay, so to speak, of its past life or incarnations. The personality consciousness that was developed as a result of past incarnations. That old clay is molded by the motivating impulse or focused intent of the overshadowing spiritual soul, and a new form is created. So that old clay from past incarnations is built into the soul. And as the soul seeks to express within itself in a new form, in a new incarnation, that old is there within that new form. So, and all of it is part of the soul plan, the new soul plan. That plan is manifested outwardly as the pattern proceeds to unfold within and through rhythmic cycles of activity. And the cycles go through, as we know, we all go through many different cycles in time. These cycles constitute the sum total of the opportunities and the possibilities and the impossibilities with which the soul is incarnating and will be faced with in daily life, in its affairs. Through these cycles are the pattern, which is the purpose and goal of the spiritual soul. These cycles are the pattern by which the purpose and goal of the spiritual soul can be worked out into manifestation. So through these various cycles, the soul grows. And it's our job, with this law of periodicity, it's our job to be able to discern where we are. And the ability to discern deepens when we identify with soul, with consciousness, not the form. So these lessons are a way for us to re-identify, to understand what our true identity is, not re-identify, to understand what our true identity is, to unplug and plug in, to realize that we're not this form. We're not our thoughts. We're not our feelings. We are consciousness, which observes these three. Yet knows itself to be something else, much deeper, much stronger, much more guided, much more powerful, much more giving, much more loving, much more altruistic and caring. Totally aligned with the one. Knowledge of one's cycles of activity is part of the wisdom of the soul and can be invoked into our brain consciousness via right aspiration. We aspire rightly. Right meditation. We learn the proper way of meditation. We don't get stuck in manipulating our meditation. Or forms of meditation. We simply do it and realize that one can be on the path of the mystic or one can be on the occult path, and at some point in time, the two paths must unite. It's not an either or, it's a both. Mystic path is a path of the heart. Occult path is the path of the mind. Mystic path gives you high levels of exaltation and bliss and beauty and phenomena, but you can't teach it to anyone how to get there. It's not reproducible, okay? Whereas the path of the mind, you can teach to others the steps. It is reproducible. And it is an aspect of direct connect. It is a mental polarization, yet it still includes the heart. So, with right aspiration, right meditation, and third, right application, we gain wisdom of the soul and our cycles of true activity. Let's take a moment to meditate. Take a deep breath. Focusing on the physical body. And as you release it, relax the physical body. Paying particular attention to the diaphragm and stomach, relaxing these. Allowing the breath to find its own natural rhythm. Send the message to the nervous system to relax the physical body. And know that the body will obey. Take another deep breath. And as you release it, bring the emotional body to serenity, calm. See the emotional body as a body of water. Take note of the surface of the water. Smooth the surface of the water until it becomes serene, and completely reflective of the sun's light. And take another deep breath, bringing the mind becoming aware, alert and focused. Move your awareness out 3 to 6 inches beyond the forehead to the Ajna center. The seat of the observer. Integrate if you can. Take the time to integrate your physical into the Ajna, your astral up into the Ajna center, and your mental into the Ajna center. Through your breath, simply by inhaling and exhaling. And when you have integrated your 3 lower bodies into the Ajna center, into a unit receptive to soul impression, aspire to soul through the direction of your thought. And sound a silent Om. We connect here with all of humanity. We connect here with the world servers. And as we connect with humanity, know that we're connecting with the etheric body of humanity. Not all of humanity form the etheric body of humanity. We connect with the oneness that we are. And at the same time, through the direction of our thought, we connect with the one life. that we emanate from. We hold the awareness of the spiritual hierarchy, the guardians of our planet and humanity. And we look toward the divine plan for humanity in and of itself. And call forth as a group in meditation the highest and best to be birthed from these conflicts that exist on our planet at this time. What aspect of the divine plan is seeking to seeking to emanate from the Middle Eastern conflict? A unity of brotherhood, perhaps. An understanding of our oneness. Allow your sense of expression to come through. Your sense of that which is seeking to be birthed from these conflicts and cataclysms. That the divine plan may be anchored and manifest. And the same with Ukraine and Russia and Europe and the United States. What is the highest and best? May the divine plan be ever present in both of these regions. And may it manifest clearly and succinctly. We pray for all the souls in transition at this time. We honor the experiences of all those on the ground. But may hatred turn to love. May healing be known and experienced. May strengthening and courage abound. May vision, the vision of the one life, be ever present in the land in the people, in government. In the consciousness. And as old forms dissolve, making way for new forms for the Aquarian age. May animosity between brothers no longer be a thing, replaced only by love, understanding, and appreciation of each other as part of the one life. See the light of the Christ, that head of hierarchy, that office. See the light of the Christ emanating, radiating, pulsing itself through the Middle East, in every neighborhood, every street, every building that was or is. May it emanate from the land itself and the people. May souls be infused. In the forms of all those who are living. And the same in all areas of conflict in our world. May calm, love, divine power and intention and will in the light of the One manifest in all areas of revolution and rebellion. May we as lights of the divine, fully aware or becoming even more aware of our purpose, manifest the intention of divinity in our life, in our sphere of influence, and in our environment. And together we sound an audible Om. Om. Sending it out to the etheric body of humanity, to the 4 kingdoms of our planet, 5 kingdoms of our planet, and within our sphere of influence. And so it is in divine law and order. Until next time, dear group, thank you for your time, your energy, your listening ear. May this information be embodied within your being. Blessings. Namaste. Till next time.